How much do you hate the Black Tusk explosives? Is this you? If so, I got good news for you. Today, one of my favorite builds is a newly updated explosive resistance build for legendary content. And it's not just about resistance, it dominates the battlefield. It's got the damage for you to lead in top kills.
And if you don't know, now you know.
The Black Tusk know how to make it rain. And how annoying is it? They have so many explosives. A lot of people think that it's their tech that gives them the advantage. It's really their explosives. I mean, the aerial drone sends explosives, their tank sends explosives, they got suicide drones, the grenadiers, and even the warhounds. But what happens when you take the power of their explosives away? Well, they just become regular old NPCs. Not that scary, especially in legendary, because there's not even that many elites. A lot of purple and red guys running around. And what if there was a build that gave you the ability to take all their explosives away, but at the same time retained all of its damage potential? And that's the build that we're bringing to you today. This is a skill damage build with 6 skill tiers, nearly maximum resistance to explosives, enough to make the Black Tusk feel like they're giving you a massage. The kicker, amazing heals. A big misconception out there is that max explosive resistance builds pull off so much damage from your build that it makes you weak. That's actually not true. Well, not for every build. Now, there's certain build types where they just can't afford to lose any damage, like assault rifles, for example. We love our assault rifles, and some builds make them feel very powerful, but the reality is they require just about every attribute you can get your hand on in order to feel that way. All of that space for crit chance and crit damage, red weapon damage cores, you name it, you need it. But for like skill builds, it's really easy to make a strong skill build. It really is. I mean, basically the 6 skill tiers plus the capacitor is really all you need. Yeah, you can put on some basic skill damage here and more 10% skill damage there, but that 10% skill damage isn't really what makes the juice worth this squeeze. You're looking at talents and skill tiers. That's what matters with skill builds. And if you think about it that way, that gives you a lot of leeway to tinker around with your build and come up with some really interesting concepts. And for legendary explosive resistance, I gotta say, it's just amazing on a skill build. So this is what the build looks like, and it's tailored around some of the great updates we got with Project Resolve in Season 3 2024. Notice I got 3 pieces of RNK, and that's one of the great buffs the devs delivered. So if you look there at the second attribute, we now have 25% explosive resistance for running 2 pieces of RNK. And I personally really like the RNK brand set. I always have, and the 20% income repairs is nice. We're actually using that. We're using all 3 of these attributes. So you do want 3 pieces of RNK. And then 25% explosive resistance, well, that's better than lengmo at 20% explosive resistance. So amazing matchup. And then I got 40% repair skills. Are you kidding me? And that's why we're able to not only heal ourselves, but heal our allies as well. So I got skill tier. That's what it comes with. Skill damage, explosive resistance, and protection from elites. Now, you sort of have a little room to play with on your mods. There's not exactly a ton of elites in legendary content where this build shines, but there are chungas, really helpful against those guys. And there are some random elites running around. And then the chest piece is my second piece of RNK, and we have skill damage and more explosive resistance, protection from elites, and then kinetic momentum. So I definitely recommend this, and that's because we're playing into both skill damage and repair skills with this build, which is quite unique. Each skill is going to generate a stack in combat. That's going to give you 15% skill damage and 30% repairs. So we got 40% repair skills, 20% incoming repairs, which doesn't show up on your stats, by the way, and then another 30% repair skills. Right there, that's just the first 2 pieces. Pretty crazy. And then the third piece, I got skill damage and repair skills. All right, switching over to the gloves, I got lengmo for that 20% explosive resistance. We got armor, skill damage, and more explosive resistance. And then for the knees, I was kind of torn on what to go with, so I decided to just go with wyvern for 10% more skill damage, which isn't that exciting. You could put palisades. You could also do the Murakami knee pads for more skill duration, actually, is what I'd run them for. And then they give you a little bit of armor regen. Notice we're running 1.1 million armor, so we're not exactly lightweights here. But the memento is really key in this. So a lot of people think the memento is not good in group play. Notice I'm playing in a group with some heavy hitters, and we still take lead in kills. And this is weapon damage, armor, skill tiers, and then we got protection from elites. And we're really playing into all the buffs that this thing has. So we're gonna get 3% armor regen, which is helping our healing power. We're gonna get 30% weapon damage. We're gonna have that all the time. And then skill efficiency, that's 30% skill efficiency. And every time we grab one of those trophies, it's gonna give us another 30% skill efficiency. We can stack that. And we're gonna get 20% bonus armor with a little bit of weapon damage buff at 5%. Very handy, which is why I decided not to go with the Murakamis, because skill efficiency contains everything. Skill haste, status effects, skill damage, skill health, skill duration, movement, and even repair skills. So the backpack is probably best in slot on this build because you're getting 30% repair skills and 30% skill damage with the duration and the skill haste. So if we look at our heals, it's 75,000 healing power per second. But remember, the incoming repair doesn't show up here, and I don't have any memento trophies right now, and I don't have kinetic momentum turned on right now. So this is way, way higher in the field. And then same thing with the skill damage. We got 115,000 skill damage, but I don't have my momentum trophies. We don't have kinetic momentum kicking in on that, and we don't have the capacitors. The capacitor is a very nice weapon. We have damage to armor, damage to targets out of cover, and then capacitance. So that's gonna give you 60% more skill damage. Do you need any more skill damage than that? Not really. Are there stronger skill builds out there? Yeah, but can they do what we're doing? No, absolutely not. And so one of the benefits of this build, it gives you a lot of strategic advantage. You can move around the field and replace your skill to take down things like healing stations, change the direction of chungas, or to take out those drone operators, since you have the resistance to withstand their blasts. Makes you a great resource for your team, really, because you can be the point of spear, and I suggest you do that. Allow yourself to take the explosions. Okay, what's also really neat about this build, and a pro tip, the heals from your build you can use to heal your turret. Your turret has plenty of duration. Usually the problem is that your turret is taking so much aggro from all of the legendary enemies that eventually it gets busted up before the duration is used up. So what I do is send my fixer drone over to my skill and allow my fixer drone to heal the turret. And you're playing from cover for the most part anyways, so you're okay to go without heals for a little bit. And if you take some damage, you simply just call it back and send your heals over to a friend when they need it. It's got some amazing heal power. And then I'm running Technician, of course, for the skill tier, and also additional damage against tech, very helpful and legendary. And remember, in your skill tree, you have some options here to choose either skill damage or skill healing. I decided to go ahead and take the skill damage option because our heals are extremely strong. If you've tried to make an explosive resistance in the past, you may have found that if you don't set it up correctly, you might not be impressed. So the reality is that explosive resistance is very similar to how protection from elite works. Protection from elites and explosive resistance are nice, but you have to have the recovery behind it, or else inevitably, although you're taking less damage, you're just gonna die. You're delaying the inevitable. And you can say that about armor as well, right? So with armor, it's nice to go out there feeling like a tank with 2 million armor. You're just buying yourself a couple of extra seconds, because the reality is they're gonna clean your clock, unless you have something like armor regen or armor on kill or a lot of bonus armor that can be refreshed. So my point is, with explosive resistance, you need some sort of recovery to go with it. Otherwise, it's just a nice to have and buys you a little bit of time. So armor regen, repair skills, even armor on kill, these are all good options depending on the build you're running. Explosive resistance isn't great on just any build, but for skill builds, you have the free slots. So for example, looking at the R&K mask, I already got skill damage, so what else would I put there? Well, I could put repair skills there. That's an alternate. It's a similar concept. Or I could put skill haste, which isn't something I really need on ballistic skills. And that's because you can see here, my cooldown is 22 seconds, but that's without my memento trophies. And once I have those, I think it's somewhere around like 14 seconds, give or take, which isn't very long. So I'm one of the few content creators that highlights explosive resistance. I feel like not everybody has figured out the explosive resistance equation, but I keep sharing it so that you guys can learn from these and determine whether they're a good fit for you. I really enjoy them. This is also a really good build if you're playing with a lot of new players who are struggling in legendary content. And so if your team goes down, that means you start attracting all the explosives in the world. And so this can help you and your team of new players get out of trouble. Thank you for hanging out with me today. My name is TuxedoBandido, and this was another episode of The Division 2. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss out on the fantastic experiences waiting for you in The Division 2. And if you like builds like this, check out the recommended build video I have here for you. If you have anything you want to see covered, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make everything possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be without you.
Follow me.
I get it.